In this video, I'm going to rank every single scoped SMG in Fortnite history from worst to best. I just want to make one quick note at the beginning of this video. It is being recorded before the Simpsons season comes out, right? And so I'm not sure if by the time you're watching this, that season will be out. If that is the case, I will update this list in the comment section down below if we do indeed get a scoped SMG. That's all I've got for this intro. If you do go on to enjoy this video, consider leaving a like. Make sure you've got code TYFRYZ in that Fortnite item shop when you buy that Simpsons Battle Pass. And let's get right into this ranking video. At number 8 is going to be the Scoped Burst SMG. This will include its mythic version, that's Thorn Scoped Burst SMG. You know, I don't really know what to feel about this weapon, right? Like, I have been pretty harsh on it, and I feel like that's for a good reason, right? Like, think about all the SMGs in Fortnite history, and how many times you're like, oh, you know what? I really wish the Scoped Burst SMG would come back. No, that's not me. For some reason, they did bring it back in Chapter 6. I believe it was Season 1, although it might have been Season 2. And I was like, why, right? Like, nobody really cares about this weapon. You don't really need a scope on a burst SMG. I think honestly most people would prefer to just not have a scope on an SMG at all. You gotta remember too, at the time, burst SMGs did not have a good reputation. You had the Season 9 burst SMG, which was horrible. Then you had this burst SMG, which was not great. And then, you know, those burst SMGs didn't start to get good until Chapter 5, Season 1 with the Thunder Burst. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't necessarily think this is a terrible weapon. It's just there's not many situations where I would prefer this over something like an assault rifle, which obviously if they're putting a scope on an SMG, it's meant to be used at somewhat longer ranges than your typical SMG. It's just not the weapon for me. At number 7 is Hades Harbinger SMG from Chapter 5 Season 2. This weapon, of course, comes equipped with a hollow scope, and I should mention for all the Chapter 5 SMGs, I will only be including the ones that permanently have a scope on them, so that's going to be, of course, the mythic ones that you can't take off the scope. On the surface, this weapon isn't too bad, where you've got a DPS of about 230, right? That's pretty good. That's what I would consider probably an above average number for an SMG, but of course, DPS doesn't take into account handling, right? The recoil of the weapon. And as you may or may not know, the Harbinger SMG has a feature that the longer that you hold the trigger, the more recoil the weapon gains. It's an unbelievably weird feature to put on an SMG, a weapon that for the most part you are holding down a trigger for a long period of time. And you've also got to remember, this is an SMG that was going up against the Gatekeeper shotgun as the close range meta. You just didn't need an SMG in Chapter 5 Season 2. It's that simple, right? You take your AR, you take your shotgun, and there you go, right? That's all you really need. I mean, maybe chuck in a sniper, you definitely don't need an SMG. And so yeah, again, I just don't really see why you would ever go for this weapon. Again, on the surface, it's not a bad weapon. If you're able to kill somebody before that recoil really starts to kick in, you can have a good time. I just felt like most of the time in Chapter 5 Season 2, I was leaving this thing behind, and I think a lot of you guys are probably going to agree with me on that. At number 6 is Midas's modular drum gun from Chapter 5. So you might have forgotten that this weapon ever existed. A lot of people tend to, because honestly, at the end of the day, why did it even exist, right? This was in Chapter 5. You had the red dot sight on this version of the drum gun. And on one hand, yeah, a red dot on a drum gun is a pretty good thing, considering the main problem with the drum gun was the fact that it doesn't have any accuracy at range, as is the case for most SMGs, let's be honest. It just has this really weird, like, horizontal bouncy recoil. I don't know how to explain it unless, like, I show gameplay of it, which of course I am doing. It's just shaky, right? Like, it doesn't feel good to use this weapon. And again, another weapon that was going to be competing with the Gatekeeper. At the end of the day, though, the drum gun can kind of act like a hybrid AR SMG. So if you want to take this in your AR slot until you find something better, I think you could make that argument. And that's honestly the only reason why I put it ahead of the Scoped Burst SMG and Hades Harbinger SMG. Again, I still think this is a very underwhelming weapon on this list. At number 5 is going to be Valyria's Hyper SMG from Chapter 5 Season 1. This weapon for me fits in such an easy category in Fortnite history. Like, when I'm ranking things, it is so perfectly a mid weapon, right? It's not great, it's not terrible. And again, I've got to mention this, you're talking about Chapter 5 Season 1, right? A season where you have one of the strongest shotguns of all time. That's Oscar's Frenzy Auto shotgun. And not to mention that, but you also have another SMG counterpart that is one of the best SMGs of all time. That's the Thunderburst. I'm telling you, you could probably ask 100 people who played Chapter 5 and ask them in Season 1 if they were taking the Hyper SMG or the Thunderburst. I guarantee you, like, 95 of those people will say they took the Thunderburst. The Thunderburst was simply just the better option, right? So it's not like Valyria's Hyper SMG was necessarily bad. I just think, one, it was going up against a really tough shotgun meta, and also you just had an SMG that was better than it. Again, another pick that I think you guys will probably agree with. I feel like a lot of people typically don't agree with my takes, but yeah, this is one that I think a lot of people probably will. The main advantage of this weapon, though, is having that extended mag. You've almost got 40 bullets with a pretty good fire rate. At number 4 is going to be the Veiled Precision SMG, and this will include Mythic version. That's Night Rose's Veiled Precision SMG. You know, still to this day, I don't really know what I think about this weapon. I mean, in the beginning of Chapter 6, I thought it was going to be absolutely broken. You got this SMG with no recoil, then they gave it a little bit more recoil. I mean, if you think about the entirety of Chapter 6, you're looking at an entire chapter that just doesn't really have many good SMGs in it. Also, again, right, the Veiled Precision SMG is good at what it needs to be, right? It's an incredibly accurate SMG. It has a pretty good fire rate. It's actually included in my every high fire rate weapon video, so go check out that video if you want to. But I just don't see why you would use this at any type of range, right? Chapter 6 has had some of the strongest AR metas ever. I mean, you literally had a season where you had the Hollow Twister, the Twin Mag, and the Striker Burst AR all in the same season. Now you throw in the MK7 in Chapter 6 Season 4, any gunfight that's past like 15 meters, you're probably just going to opt to use one of those first-person ARs. I will say also, being able to turn on or off the scope on this weapon is actually pretty helpful if you think about it. I think this is a perfectly fine SMG. That's why it's at the, 50% mark on this list. I'm not crazy impressed by it. It does what it needs to do, but it's still not a top-tier SMG in my opinion. And number 3 is going to be a fascinating one. It's the Redeye SMG, and yes, this is a reload exclusive weapon. I almost never do this in my videos. I almost never rank anything besides, the regular Battle Royale weapons, but I know there would be an army of people in the comment section who would say, Ty, you forgot the Redeye SMG if I didn't mention it in this video, so it's going to get a spot. And while I don't play reload that often, I have used this weapon a couple times, and I'm pretty impressed with it. To me, it just feels like a better version of the Hyper SMG, or specifically the Mythic version. It's very accurate. It's got the same red dot sight, and it has a higher DPS. I think my only problem with this weapon is, like, in reload, most of the time you've got a very good loot pool. Are you going to take this weapon? Not necessarily. But I can see how people like this weapon, and you can definitely do work with it, right? This is not a weapon that you're going to see and be like, oh, I'm not touching that thing. Like, you can definitely take this and put in some good damage. And I'm going to be honest, if you forgot that the Redeye SMG ever existed, yeah, I absolutely wouldn't blame you. I also just don't know why it never came to Battle Royale, right? Like, they left it as a reload exclusive. I don't know. That was kind of a weird decision to me. All right, moving on to number 2. It's our newest entry to this list. It's the Eradicator Shadow Precision SMG from Chapter 6 Season 4. That's the exotic version of the Veiled Precision, which will mark opponents when you hit them, which is helpful, right? You're not going to complain about that. At the end of the day, it is just a marginally better version of the Veiled Precision. Now, this weapon, I think, is kind of an interesting one because if you think about it, right, you're not using an SMG in Chapter 6 Season 4. You literally have double pump. Most of the time when I find this thing, I just leave it behind, right? It's that simple. I'm not taking it. But I wonder what the future of this weapon looks like, right? Because I highly doubt this thing will carry over into the Simpsons season. And then typically when we get a new chapter, that means we get a fresh, new, entire loot pool. So I really do wonder when the next time we're going to see this weapon is, because as of recording this video, this season ends in like 2 days. You guys might be watching, the Simpsons season might be out already. Depending on the meta though, I could see this weapon being a little bit better than I currently think it is in Chapter 6 Season 4, but it just misses out being the number 1 spot. And I say just, but it wasn't even close. So let's get into the number 1 pick. At number 1 today, guys, the best scoped SMG in Fortnite history. It is not even close. It's Midas's Gilded Eye drum gun from Chapter 6 Season 2. I rank a lot of things in Fortnite. In fact, as my bio says, I rank everything in Fortnite. I make a ranking video basically every single day, and I don't know that I've ever seen such a discrepancy between the number 1 pick and then the rest of the list as is with this list. It's absolutely insane how good this weapon is, and I feel like people don't talk about it a lot and just kind of forget it ever existed because it kind of got lost in the whole like lawless exotic updates that you got with Chapter 6 Season 2. They just kind of like snuck this weapon into the loot pool. Like I said earlier in this video, the main problem with the drum gun was the fact that it had horrible accuracy when you're aiming down sights. Well, now you throw on a thermal scope that gives this thing insane range. I'm talking assault rifle range. It does assault rifle damage better than some assault rifles do. And so you have that insane range, but also you still maintain the great DPS that you need for an SMG to compete at those like super close quarters. Don't get it twisted. This is the best SMG that we've seen in Chapter 6, and it is one of the best weapons in this chapter. In fact, it's one of the best weapons of all time. If you want to hear how I think it stacks up against other weapons in Fortnite history, I literally ranked every single weapon. Of course, go check that video out. Alrighty, folks, I hope you went on to enjoy that video. Again, make sure you're using code TYFRYZ in that Fortnite item shop if you're going to be buying that Simpsons Battle Pass. Helps me out a ton, helps to support the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this ranking, and I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace.